Hey guys, Scott and Vanessa Martindale here with Blended Kingdom Families. At BKF, we believe now is the time to change the modern day interpretation of the blended family.
Absolutely, you guys. As a blended family ourselves, God laid it on our hearts to build a ministry that helps support blended families by equipping your marriage, uniting the family unit, and igniting your faith. Our mission is that you would be touched by God and experience His goodness through this ministry, that your family would have practical skills, resources, and tools to help you live that abundant blended life.
Guys, welcome to Blended Kingdom Families. Scott and Vanessa Martindale here with some amazing friends and guests today.
Yes, you guys, we have Craig and Gina Morgan. Craig and Gina are the founders of Blended Together Forever Ministry. It's a nonprofit. They have been married 24 years.
Wow.
And we have a lot that we can learn from them.
Yes.
A lot of good nuggets. And we're just so excited to have you guys on the show with us today.
Thanks.
Yes.
We're glad to be here.
Yes. Together they have 7 children, his, hers, and then ours, and then 3 grandbabies.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they range from, you said 37 to, the oldest is 37,
Yeah.
the baby's 25.
That's right.
And how old are the grandbabies?
We have our granddaughter is about to be 13 in September, and then we have a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old grandsons.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
I have heard those stories of being grandparents is like the best.
They're
It is
great.
the best.
The best.
They're great.
It is
Awesome.
the best.
Well, a little bit about Craig and Gina. So, Gina, we'll start with you. You are a speaker, author, and I was reading about your bio. You specifically help women like with addiction, recovering from sexual abuse, and just things from their past. And I think that is just so powerful, and it's so needed.
It is.
So needed.
It's so powerful, and so much of that we bring into our marriages.
Yes.
And not meaning to.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important for women to take care of themselves, take care of their hearts.
So
I know that is a big thing that I did not do.
Yeah.
And it catches up with you. So was a good thing to learn later on in life and now share with the other young
Yes.
moms. Take care of yourself. It's not going to all fall apart if you go away for a weekend with some women to nourish your heart.
Yes.
Because you'll be better for it.
Yes.
So important.
That's so good.
So,
I love that. You're also the owner of Prime America,
Yes.
and then you're on the leadership team for Hearts of Beauty Texas.
Yes.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, that is a women's retreat that we gather every year out in close to Tyler, Texas, on Lake Palestine and Pine Cove. And it is not like anything you've ever been to. You aren't sitting taking notes. It is women that are getting up and sharing their stories. A lot of transparency, which women need. I think women do not want to be vulnerable because they're afraid, or they think, I'm different, nobody else has this problem. Well, this is 3 nights and 4 days of the walls come down, and it is incredible.
Love it.
So, yes, very important. And that's where I share my story of some things that I went through growing up, some things that I went through in the beginning of our marriage, an addiction that I had that nobody knew about and that God delivered me miraculously from, but later on in our marriage, and where I began just some healing and really taking care of myself.
So good.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good.
Love that. Love learning more about you guys.
Yes.
And Craig, you have done so much. You are a public speaker, mentor for the local church. You are also a recruiter, a coach, a team builder of 37 years with Prime America. You guys have been doing that a long time.
Yeah.
Wow. Also a leadership coach for Campus Crusade for Christ. Also won an award for the leadership, I believe, for your book that you wrote as well. And so they have a published book, and it's called Blending Blocks to Making the Family Whole Again. And so we'd love for you guys to share more about this and more about your ministry.
Okay, sure. Well, we didn't want to do the ministry. Let me say that real quick. We fought the Lord on and said, no, go get somebody else.
Right.
But it was Mother's Day of 1998, and where we were going to church at the time, our pastor approached me and said, Craig, Mother's Day's coming up, and I know it's a tough day for stepmoms.
Yeah.
But I've been reading about the statistics of blended families, so I think this year I want to do something different. I just want you and Gina to basically tell your story and how you're making your family work.
Yeah.
So we thought that would be the end of it, and I thought, okay, well, we'll do that. And the Lord kind of knocked on our heart, seeing this huge need that was basically unaddressed in the local church.
Yeah.
And I thought, there's a lot of families like us. So it was more of a burden, thinking we have to do something. And that's why we started the ministry.
Right.
Well, I love the story, and I love the fact that, you know, God, he kind of taps on a door and then starts kicking the door open. And you're absolutely right. Some of the most amazing things start out so ambiguous to what's going to happen. So sharing your testimony. And I love your testimony. I love the fact that you've been married for 24 years. You have all this nuggets of wisdom. And you and I were talking before, and I said, you know, so many new families are thirsty for more information. And that's why we love bringing this content to them and love the idea of having to get some wisdom from your experiences. So one of the things that we're talking about, and definitely love the book, one of the things that we're talking about pretty aggressively this month is step parenting. And being in that stepfather, stepmother role. And uniquely, both of you guys are step parents because both of you brought children into the marriage. Right. So, and this is a big question, but 24 years of doing this, what would you give in terms of, say, best practices? How do you be the best step parent possible?
Great question. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to? Well, from a stepfather or stepdad, I think by far the first thing that comes to my mind, Scott, is just be their friend.
Yeah.
It's so easy to try to think, oh, I'm supposed to be a parent or some type of other role than just a buddy.
Yeah.
And in our case, she had 4 boys that, you know, she's like, finally, I've got a man that can help me with some of this testosterone in the house. And so, you know, but if I could go back, best practices, no question, would have been to take a longer time to build a stronger just relationship.
Yeah.
And then the second thing that comes to my mind is realize that the kids are going to come along at different paces.
Yeah.
One of the boys, because he was young, really took to me pretty quick.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking of another one that he definitely didn't want to.
Yeah.
And part of it was because he was probably feeling that if I get close to Craig, I'm going to be disloyal to my dad. So that's what kept him at bay.
Yeah.
So those best practices, if I could go back, I would have, you know, realized that. At the time, we did the best we could. But that would be comes to my mind as from a stepfather perspective.
You know, one of the things that comes to me when you say that is there's going to be a lot of opportunities to parent.
Exactly.
There's going to be, over the course of a child's life, you're going to have a lot of those key moments. They're like, let me parent, let me be a good role model here. But the majority of the time, you're absolutely right. The way to build that relationship is through that friendship, through common interests, through sometimes just asking a question and listening. Right. And giving some good advice when you have to. So I love that. Love that part of it. Gina, what do you think?
Yeah. I think looking back, we had on Monday nights what we called family night. And that's where I had a themed night of dinner, Italian, Mexican, whatever, and would let them participate and help or pick it out. And then we would afterwards have a Bible study leadership meeting around the table. And that was, every Monday night, unless somebody had a project they needed to work on away from home. More about that later. Yeah. Those kind of started when they were teenagers.
Oh, got it.
Oh, we have a project. So that was real important. But looking back, I wish giving them more of a voice, like asking their their ideas.
Right.
Tell us what you think about this, and go deeper. That's something I've learned from Craig, is tell me more about that. Yeah. Tell me more. And letting them have input on everything from, some of the consequences to ideas of, places we go, things we do. Not that they, would have the say-so, but just letting them have more of a voice versus here's what we're doing this week. This is where we're going next week. Everybody get your calendars out because there were 9 of us.
Yeah.
So trying to be on the same page was just horrendous.
It was
but
terrible.
we did pretty good. We had to split ourselves, many times. And,
Divide and conquer.
You go to these 2 games and you switch at halftime. I go to these 2 games and switch at
love
halftime.
that.
Y'all are on rotation for next week.
Yeah.
So, but just because really they have such great ideas. I've learned that from my granddaughter.
Yeah.
Just sometimes listening to her, she's got great ideas. But because I'm older, I think I've got the ideas. But it's like I'm learning, a little late. But it's just going back and thinking about if we'd have just said things like, "Tell me more, tell me more." Just letting them talk more because they need that. They need to be able to just talk, and that's so good. Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the families today, especially with teenage children or maybe coming up into that teenage years, and one of the things that all of us as adults would recognize is the communication that we do today compared to what we did 25 years ago when we were, young, and it's different.
Yeah.
We didn't have text messaging, Snapchat, all these things that that kids are basically communicating. I remember looking at some text message chains with our son, and I'm like, well, you gotta learn how to talk. Like, I don't even understand what you're saying here. And I'm sure you've all seen that, but it does manifest in how they communicate, on a individual level. So asking them, like you said, what do you think? And then they're like, I'll give you a quick little, that's what I think.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yes. And he'll do it like 3 times.
Yeah.
And then you finally get to what the answer is.
Yeah.
But it takes that. I've seen him do this with people. And I thought, God, that's genius. If we'd have done that more, because they really want to talk, it just takes peeling away some of those layers. Do you think? It just takes a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you say, tell me more, that's easier for them to open up and peel that layer other than, well, you got to come up with something better than that.
Yeah.
That's not allowed. You need to tell, you got to talk,
Yes.
It's just an easier way that's inviting
That's
for
good.
them. Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah, I can imagine so many parents struggle in those areas where they have kind of closed off, teenagers have closed off emotions, children have closed off emotions. And as step parents, you're trying to be the friend, you're trying to be the parent, but you're also just trying to hopefully allow them to have a better life and enjoy that process. But part of that is being able to open up and talk and do those things.
Yes.
Right.
And participate. Feel like they have ownership
Yes.
in in some of the decisions and some of the, and in some of the, like I said, the, little things we talked about, consequences and things. They have some ownership in that too if they're coming up with some of the, things to solve.
Yes, yes. I think it builds a stronger child when we allow them to do that, and more confidence as well. And I think ultimately it builds that trust too between the step parent and the stepchild as well.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
And we've talked about this as we've kind of carried on, but my next kind of point was, what have you learned in your 24 years of marriage? So maybe that's dealing with adult children, grandbabies, maybe when they were little. If you could take out 2 or 3 nuggets, this is what I learned about being a step parent. What would you say?
Go ahead.
You want me to go first? Just 2 or 3.
The only reason I say 2 or 3 is because we could talk for hours about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that's coming to me right now that I've not even really thought or verbalized before would be, you don't have to have all the answers figured out. It's normal to not. But when I look back, I thought, I got to have all this stuff figured out so I can love, lead, parent, discipline. I mean, I just thought I had to, maybe it's because I'm an oldest child too, so the responsibility, I've got to have it all figured out. But I think other than that, there's a couple of truths to me that really were staple moments. One, and we say this in our book, is the issue of realignment. In a nuclear marriage and family, the spouse comes first and the children come second. But in a blended family, typically the children come first and the marriage or the spouse comes second. So over time, you've got to realign where the marriage needs to be the first priority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one that was big for me. Another thing that was big, Scott, was to really try to feel what her boys had felt and try to travel the tracks that they had walked. And Gina was great at helping me with this. She said, Craig, you've always had your dad, but think about it. What would it have been like if all of a sudden you're 12 and then he's out of your life overnight?
Yeah.
Which is a critical age for a boy. They're asking these questions internally, like, do I have what it takes to be a man, and what's wrong? I mean, so once I went there, that really helped me feel what they had felt and try to understand as best I could what they were dealing with. So that was a couple of best practices from a stepdad perspective that I've learned.
Yeah.
So you want to say one or two from a mom?
I would say, you know, for kids, they're so good at reading you, and I think sometimes we would act like I would have it all together, and you know, they can sense and know when you don't, or when you're having a little disagreement, and just being a little more vulnerable with them, because they know. And we weren't perfect. You know, some of our disagreements were out in the open, and but they also saw us, work through those, and just make up or give a hug and apologize or whatever. They saw that too. They saw that part. So, but we, just being a little bit more vulnerable and letting them know, yes, things are, we're not perfect at this. We are learning, and I'm sorry we're learning on y'all. We don't have any resources here. And learning. And he was always so good, when he disciplined or, maybe made a judgment call on one of the boys that shouldn't have been made or something. He was always so good at going up and apologizing and saying, look, I blew it. And I'm sorry, and I'm trying to get better at this thing. So that was always so good, is that he, being able to say you're sorry, and that, will you forgive me? Kids, the walls come down when those words are said.
Absolutely. Well, and it teaches them, I think it's a picture of a biblical marriage too, forgiveness and how we can forgive each other.
Every day.
And your marriage is the reflection of what they will, see as their marriage one day. And so that, I think I love that you practice that you do, apologize in front of each other, but to the children as well, and own up for that. It's so good.
She thinks for me sometimes, because that was exactly what I was thinking. I cannot create a better atmosphere, because we all make mistakes. We're not perfect. No marriage is perfect. No marriage is without argument. No marriage is without, conflict. But there are a lot of marriages that are without public redemption and forgiveness and setting the kind of the bounds of saying you're going to have relationships that go astray. But the marriages that survive are the ones who come back and say, you know what, we forgive, and setting that example for your children, it's the best thing in the world for them. And then even more so if you're thinking from the eyes of maybe a little bit more mature child, or even somebody who's starting to recognize, they may look at it like, my first family fell apart. This must be what's about to happen here. I see my parents, my stepdad and my stepmom fighting with each other. This must be what's about to happen. So their mind is already going to that defense place. It's already going to that, well, I'm going to have to go through this again phase. So again, if you're not somebody who can control your emotions like most children cannot, you can see how that would downward spiral. But giving them that full range of, yes, there's conflict, but yes, there's redemption. I love it. Absolutely. And I think a lot of parents, and just to make this point to maybe the listeners, is a lot of parents look at like arguments like we have to keep them behind closed doors. We can't let our children see it. But you're absolutely right. They're intuitive.
They are.
They're smarter than we think, and they hear more than you think, and they definitely see more than you think. So they know that there's conflict, but if you didn't show the redemption in front of them, they may never know that things are, back on a good track, and mom and dad still love each other, and they're still going to do things right. So
exactly.
Okay.
So good.
So my last point is, again, so much experience. And I don't mean to keep saying that, but you know, a lot of people are going to grab nuggets from this. A new blended family, what we're all striving to help. If they were sitting with us, or if they're listening, and they're just starting to blend, and they maybe have younger children, or maybe they're older, whatever their situation.
Right.
What advice would you give them?
I'll go first.
Yes.
Number one, date night is a must. It is a must. And we had rules for our date night, and sometimes we got off track, but we'd get back on track. But that was, we aren't going to discuss kids, and we aren't going to discuss business, because we owned a business that was a huge part of our life, and we had a lot of kids that always had a lot of things going on.
Right.
So we tried to stay away from those topics. Every now and then it would get woven in, but date night and
What did you talk about?
I know, really?
I was thinking in my head, I'm like, wait a second, if we can't talk about kids or work, I mean, what do you talk about?
That's easy for
Cowboys,
me.
right?
Yeah, we're talking about the Cowboys, yeah. She didn't say no sports.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, we do that. Well, we talked about dreams and goals, and you know, maybe ideas for trips we're going to go on, or you know, he didn't want to talk about what flowers I wanted to put, or things I wanted to plant in the garden, so we had to move. Yeah, but we had to be creative.
I
we had to be
get
creative.
it.
That's right.
That's good.
And we would make it a point to go to a marriage conference. Twice a year would be the best, every 6 months, but at least once a year to get away and do something for you.
Yes, that's good.
Because it starts at the top. And if it's not right up there, just get, you know.
Absolutely.
So I think that was real important. And then the other thing that I tell ladies that ask me at the Hearts of Beauty, what would you tell young moms, you know, of all of us that are here? What would you do? And I would say, I would go back and tell my younger self, it doesn't matter if the house falls apart, get away. Get away and nurture your heart. And take care of it. And that's what I would say, is because if mom ain't happy, that's so true. Nobody happy. So if you're going to be in a better place if you come home and that house is it's going to fall apart. I mean, all of it's going to get messed up anyway over the weekend, whether you're there or not. You're going to be there just cleaning. So get away and do something good for you, so you can come home and be a better person for yourself, your spouse, and your kids.
That's good.
So important.
Yes. Good.
Yes.
Two things come to mind. The first would be, don't go it alone. You've got mentors right here with Scott and Vanessa. Watch the podcast, the content, the videos, anything. Like you're saying, you can pick up a gold nugget here, a nugget there. That would be the first. The second thing that we learned is that you're going to a new place. It's a new vision. You can still honor the old, but you've got to go somewhere new.
That's good.
Yeah.
So as an example, again, being a mentor and doing this for as many years as we have, I remember I couldn't stand Christmas because Gina would decorate the tree and all it did was remind me of pain. She didn't know that was going, because first of all, I didn't verbalize it to her. But once she understood what that symbol meant to me and why going to the Galleria or ice skating was what you did with your boys prior to me, she was just thinking, I'm trying to keep it comfortable and similar for the boys, so we're trying to get stability. We could still honor that, but we had to create our own new traditions. We're going to a new place. So the dance of honoring the old, but that's not enough. You've got to create something new. It's a new vision, it's a new destination, and it's okay to not know where, but we're going to the promised land and we'll know it when we get there.
I love that. That's so good.
Yeah.
You know, the new traditions are amazing, and I think you just nailed it right there. Honoring the past, respecting the child's, memories of what's going on,
Right.
but creating new memories. So good. And I think it's also important that all men just clean the house. I think that Gina had the point right there. I've seen it in my own marriage. Men, if you want the things to go smooth, Start doing dishes. Start vacuuming. That just, telling you, it makes the whole world spin just a little bit better.
That's right.
Well, guys, before we wrap up, I wanted y'all to share a little bit about your book, and then just tell our viewers how they can find you guys and find out more about your ministry and the things that you guys are doing for blended families as well.
Yeah. Well, that was a labor of love. We were told that we should write our book first, and then a workbook curriculum type be the second thing. But the Lord had something different in mind. There were doors that just kept shutting, like we'll write our own story one day, but that wasn't what was important. What was important was the feedback that we kept getting. Oh my goodness, the church has marriage resources, they've got parenting resources, but they don't have blended family resources.
Right.
So through the help of some other people and friends, we just kind of, did a brain dump, and people helped put it together to where it's a workbook series that could be done in a small group, home group, a Bible study on a Sunday night or whatever.
Right.
Or it could even be just a husband and wife could go through it together.
Sure. Yeah.
Because on the leader guide, it's got the scripture reference and the answer key, and the other one's the fill in the blank. So you can grow together, and you could use it in multiple different ways.
Awesome.
We were honored that just a few months ago, the Christian Literary Association gave us the People's Choice Award. They said, "We love your book." I said,
That's awesome.
"Great."
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's a
thank
big
you.
thing. That's so awesome. And it even has the
Little seal and everything.
symbol on there.
So, yeah.
That means it's legit. Okay.
So they can find it at our website, blendedtogether.org.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, guys, we are so thankful that you were
Yes,
here.
thank you.
Thank you for the invitation.
I cannot wait to bring you back. You guys
Great.
have got so much. I love the nuggets. It's like
The wisdom.
the wisdom and the
Yeah.
nuggets. I just think is so valuable, so valuable.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for being here,
Yes,
and
thank
we
you.
are excited the next time you come back to see us. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
So guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. It's been such an amazing day with Craig and Gina. We're excited. Be blessed in all you do. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Bye.
So amazing,
Really
guys.
well.
That was really,
so
really good.
good.
Hey BKF community, we want to hear from you guys. If you would take the time to leave us a review, and you can find us on all social media platforms. Our podcast is like on every podcast platform, and you can visit us at our website at www.blendedkingdomfamilies.com.
Yeah, guys, we're trying to reach every blended family all over the world, and we can't do this without your partnership. So please take a minute, like, share, comment, review, tell your friends. Tell them they can all go to blendedkingdomfamilies.com for great resources.